More than 1,000 subscribers are now following us. Thank you so much. Welcome to this humble channel. Today we have with us Oliver and KaspaSilver. Welcome. Excuse me, but my English is terrible. I'll do my best. Thank you all for joining us and sharing your experience and knowledge. Before continuing, very important, subscribe to the channel and give it a like, leave constructive comments, and share this channel with your family and friends. Remember, on this channel, we don't know give recommendations. These are only personal ideas and opinions. Always verify the information. All right, let's get started. Question for Silver. How did you discover Kaspa?
Yes, thank you so much for having me on here. It's a pleasure to be here, and congrats on 1,000 subscribers. I remember that feeling when you first hit that first 1,000, and I happened to hit that pretty quickly myself when I started making Caspa content, and it's an amazing thing. But at the end of the day, that number is gonna become less and less irrelevant, and always stay focused on the value that you're giving your viewers, and don't get caught up in the numbers and all that kind of stuff. Just
Sure.
stay focused on giving value to your audience. um so yeah, I found Caspa back in 2023. um I was on the path towards Bitcoin maximalism. I had already been in the crypto market since early 2020, when I had turned 18. Today I'm 23 years old, but I had turned 18 back in 2020, and I got into crypto. So I had a cousin that told me about it, look into Bitcoin. And of course, like everyone, you look into Bitcoin and then you look into everything else. And so you start that journey of learning. And um, sometimes a lot of people need to have that journey so that you can learn, because there's so many different things to get into. And I was hopping around, had coins, meme coins, trying to get rich quick. That was what basically I fell into, wanting to get rich quick. But in my mind, I always had the mentality that I do want to be a long-term minded investor. If I am going to buy something, I want to hold it long term. But of course, I want to find something that's going to give me higher returns faster. So over time, the crypto market started heading towards a bear market. Things started getting very bad, and we had FTX collapse, Voyager collapse, BlockFi collapse. All of those go bankrupt. Celsius, all those go bankrupt. And at the time, I did not value self custody. Um, Thankfully, I dodged all those bankruptcies. When I was holding my crypto in FTX, making a yield on my money, and I was about to get into Voyager, because Voyager said that they can give you 9% on their stablecoin, and I was looking for the highest return, which is a very foolish thing to do. While I was trying to make an account with Voyager, for some reason it wasn't working, and Voyager went bankrupt. Once
Wow.
Voyager went bankrupt, I researched why. I learned about self custody, and I left FTX. I also had money on BlockFi. I had some money on Celsius as well. I moved everything off of all those exchanges, and I kid you not, a month later, all those exchanges went bankrupt. So I managed to dodge getting bankrupt with those exchanges. But when I moved to self custody, I happened to move into a project that was not really good. It's called VeChain. It's still a thing today, but it's not even doing well that this market as well. This market that was at all, because definitely does not have the fundamentals that Caspa has. So I was in the VeChain space. and I was messing around with NFTs and trading NFTs and being in that world, thinking VeChain is gonna flip Ethereum one day.
Wow.
um, and during that time, when the bear market hit, it kind of just struck me, why does Bitcoin stay number one? So I started researching Bitcoin. That led me to find Bitcoin University. Really great YouTube channel, a lot of great content in there. Just don't become a maximalist. Think
100%.
critically. Really good information in there. Just I would just say don't become a maximalist. But I started researching him, and I was slowly becoming a Bitcoin maximalist, and I was slowly selling all of my NFTs and everything. And VeChain had happened to make a feature where you can bulk sell all your NFTs and have someone buy them all at the same time.
Wow.
So I'm over here studying Bitcoin. While I'm studying Bitcoin, you're learning all the ethos, the things behind it, what makes it unique. I stumble upon a comment on CoinMarketCap that says Satoshi made Kaspa. And that struck me because I thought that's such a stupid thing to say. Why would you market a coin saying that? It made me curious though to at least just look, because I was like, why would you say something like that to market something? That's so dumb. Obviously, Satoshi's gone. And I decided to look at Caspa. I saw the price. I was like, okay, this is crazy. It's doing really well in a bear market. Everything else was crashing. Caspa was doing its own thing. Then I researched further and come to find out the founder is in the Ethereum white paper. I was like, whoa, like that means Caspa is like something that stems off of years of research. And then I find out it's proof of work, it's fair launch, and it follows all of the same fundamentals that Bitcoiners say that are a requirement basically for something to be sound money. Um, the only thing difference was the founder was alive and the founder existed, which personally I just don't believe that's much of a big problem anymore. I think an anonymous founder is only important for Bitcoin, and you can't really replicate that anymore. If Kaspa had an anonymous founder, I think it would not be as good as it is today. People wouldn't trust it as much. So I think an anonymous founder is just not needed anymore. Um, what matters is the actual fundamentals of the coin itself, the fact that it is decentralized, it cannot be tampered. So at that moment, I had put all of my NFTs to the market, and someone happened to buy them all off of me. And I happened to just put everything into Caspa because when I studied it, I was like, this checks off all the boxes. I mean, if there's anything else to really compete in the money aspect of crypto, being digital cash for the whole world, Caspa is one of the best contenders. Just simply by the fact because Bitcoin does not scale for the masses. Um, and funny enough, a few months later, after I sold all those NFTs, the website and the whole people behind the NFT project, they all left. So everything went to zero. So
Wow.
I dodged that bullet as well. And it also taught me why NFTs, meme coins, and all that kind of stuff, in my opinion, is just something not worth your time. Um, that's just my opinion, basically, because crypto is already risky alone. Getting into anything else is just increasing that risk tenfold. So I want to be able to hold something long term, be able to sleep at night and not really think about what I'm investing in too hardly. I kind of just do my research, and if it's sound, I can stick with it. And so
Right.
that's how I basically found Caspa. I got into Caspa, and then eventually I started studying more, and then I started looking for content on YouTube. And the content on YouTube was just uh, not the kind of content that I would like to watch. Especially being that I watch a lot of Bitcoin University. I love his content. And I looked at Caspa and I was like, Caspa deserves content similar to Bitcoin University. Caspa is built in a way for longevity. and it deserves content that is actually talking about things that people can learn new things. And so eventually I decided to make my own YouTube channel, and inspired off of Bitcoin University pretty much, and start educating people on Caspa and giving my serious takes and opinions on it, while not really focusing on the price so much, because I think the price is going to speak for itself. Um, the price comes from the value of Caspa, the fundamentals. And so I think it's much more important to teach those things to people so that people are actually informed about what they're actually doing, and not just getting into something just because someone says it's going to go up. Um, Caspa is not built like that. Caspa is not built for hype and pump and dumps. It's built for longevity, and I really think Caspa um, is going to make a statement in the crypto space, because there's nothing like it we've seen since the creation of Bitcoin.
Yeah. Sí. Kaspa is the proof of work of the world, and is inevitable. Is the proof of work by the people for the people. And this your channel is and value, pure value, and the price, buy value and sell price. My focus is the value, and price is second chance. Um, Sorry, but sorry, but my English is poor, but and I'll do my best. Um, uh, second question for you, Silver. Um, tell us about the importance of the decentralized money.
Yeah, so um, that's a deep question. The importance of decentralized money. So um, there's still a lot of people that haven't realized this, but our money today is currently backed by pretty much nothing.
Mm,
Um, it used to be backed by gold, and eventually that was ruled out. And now basically our money is backed by debt and wars. Um, and that pretty much is what keeps the dollar dominant, is because since now you can print the dollar infinitely,
mm,
you can infinitely fund wars, or infinitely pretty much control people, control other countries or whatever, um, based on the dollar. You can sanction other countries and that kind of stuff. So there's just less freedom when money is not necessarily decentralized, but instead it's centralized and is printed forever. The worst part of that is we have to face inflation. That's the biggest thing. Because the dollar can be printed forever, inflation remains. And saving in dollars, or any fiat for that matter, will just simply not actually make you wealth. So Caspa, things like Bitcoin, is trying to kind of create a brand new standard that we've never had before, which is that having a decentralized money that cannot be manipulative at all. So with Caspa, Caspa has a very fixed supply. There's only so many Caspa that will ever exist. That goes the same for Bitcoin, and no one can change this. No single person can change this. The only way someone can change that is by having consensus. And to have consensus with a change such as that requires um, a lot of work, and the ability to convince a lot of people to dilute your holdings. Because if
mm,
you increase the supply, then what it currently exists, that will dilute everyone's holdings.
mm,
And so there's really no incentive to increase the supply, um, unless there's some really really good reason such as with proof of work networks, they need to survive through the fee market, which the fee market can only be created if there's enough people using the network. And so this is why it's so important that the network incentivizes use. And when we're comparing Bitcoin to Kaspa, Bitcoin doesn't necessarily incentivize use. It incentivizes holding. And pretty much no one really wants to use it. And if you do want to use it, you have to onboard yourself to another layer, and that layer lets you use Bitcoin, but you're still not really using it because everything you do on the other layer does not actually support the base layer. Or in other words, it doesn't provide fees. The only thing that provides fees is onboarding the user to that other layer.
It's
And
not
so when we're
Bitcoin. Yeah.
yeah, so when we're looking at
Yeah.
Bitcoin and Kaspa, Bitcoin to me, I have the saying, when you lack scalability, it leads to centralization. When there's lack of scalability, centralization is going to come in. And it's very similar to me. I just see kind of like Bitcoin is no longer being an actual threat to the traditional way of money. It's more so recreating what we already have and just redefining who are the leaders, who's the elites in that system. The reason why I say that is because with Bitcoin, when you go onto another layer, you have to use another layer that was created by somebody else. This somebody else has the ability to set fees on this other layer and profit off of you using their solution. And it's very similar to gold. You see, the reason why gold was ruled out was because it wasn't scalable. It wasn't easy to move around. So what had happened was countries, America primarily, would hoard the gold. And then what they decided to do was introduce a layer two, which was cash.
Mhm.
And the cash would enable people to be able to send the money around quickly. And it would also let the person be able to convert that cash back into gold if they wanted to. But eventually, what
Yeah.
happened was America started printing more than there was gold available. And the reason why they're able to do this is because this system is a very centralized system. There's no checks and balances. Whereas with Bitcoin or Kaspa, you cannot print more than what is available. It's impossible because it's backed by code and math. Whereas in the real world, there's no way to really know. You can just start doing it. And so eventually people started realizing that America was printing more than that was available, and people started wanting their gold back. And then eventually America decided to just completely get off of gold. So when we're looking at gold and comparing that to Bitcoin now today, Bitcoin is viewed as digital gold. And so this is why I'm coming to that conclusion that unfortunately Bitcoin is being recreated into basically another type of gold, which will fall into the same issues that gold had, where it introduced the layer two, which was the dollar. Now, Bitcoin today is introducing layer twos, which isn't exactly the same thing as the dollar, but you're reintroducing the very things that Bitcoin was supposed to protect you from, which was centralization, censorship, and all those other things that come with Bitcoin, self-sovereignty. Whenever you leave the base layer on these proof of work systems, you are reintroducing the very things that you're trying to escape from the dollar. And so if Bitcoin does not take an approach of trying to actually scale, I myself just see Bitcoin falling into basically the same kind of system and just basically recreating who are the people who are going to profit off of you using this new solution, this new solution they call it, so that you can use
Right.
your Bitcoin faster. Whereas when we're looking at Kaspa, Kaspa has the ability to make layer twos, another layer, a choice, not so much a requirement. For Bitcoin, layer twos are becoming a requirement for you to actually interact with your Bitcoin. With Kaspa, layer twos are not a requirement for you to interact with Kaspa. Layer twos are a requirement to allow Kaspa to be a whole lot more programmable and enable a lot more different use cases. But the main layer will be able to continue adapting as adoption comes in so that people can remain on that base layer and not
Mm.
only remain there, be incentivized to stay on this base layer that is decentralized and fully self sovereign and censorship resistant. You have incentives to. What are those incentives? The fact that Kaspa introduces to humanity the first time that we can have a internet speed type of digital cash. And that's what Bitcoin came into crypto with, saying that it was going to be an electronic cash system that does not need any third parties, no middleman to be able to transact. But like I was saying, when you lack scalability, it leads to centralization. And the world is moving digital, and more people are going to be using digital things. And if you want to actually attract people, and especially the next generation, not just this generation that exists, this generation that exists doesn't isn't born into the digital world.
Mm.
They're learning the digital world. The next
Right.
generation is born into the digital world. It's gonna be secondhand nature. I see a future
Mhm.
where a seed phrase is taught in school. You're gonna know in school as a young kid, your seed phrase is your keys to to your crypto, and those keys protect your assets. And a child is going to learn this as a child and be able to understand that concept way early on. That's the future I believe we're going to go to, because this stuff is going to become normalized. The same way how we normally know that when you create an email account, you create a password. Traditionally, you should not create the same password for every other account. That's just like common etiquette when you're making accounts online. Don't use the same password for
Mhm.
every single other account.
Mm.
And I believe people are going to be learning these things, and it's going to become secondhand knowledge. And I personally believe that the whole rest of the digital world operates at internet speeds. When you click a link, people are going to click that link and they receive the website instantly. When people send an email, it comes instantly, a text instantly. Why in the world should our money not also follow those same digital standards of practically internet speed? And so Kaspa, for the first time, enables a proof of work system, and not just any proof of work system, a pure proof of work system that is decentralized, censorship resistant, fully fair launched, follows the same ethos as Bitcoin. It allows that kind of system to be able to transfer money at internet speeds anywhere in the world, practically free. And we've never really had that. But this is where it gets even more interesting, because Kaspa's goal is to be digital silver. And that view of digital silver is not to be taken so literal. I'm my name is KaspaSilver, and a lot of people get very hung up on silver, and they say, well, if Kaspa's supposed to be silver, then that means it's always going to be less than Bitcoin. It's supposed to be silver to Bitcoin gold. Personally, I think the narratives of silver and gold and applying it to these systems is so limiting. You're
Yeah.
limiting the network so much, because this is all digital. At the end of the day, they are nothing like silver and gold. This is
Hmm.
completely new. So the concept for me when we talk about digital silver for Kaspa is just the simple fact that silver historically in the real world was used more than gold. And
Right.
Kaspa's
Hmm.
aim is to be the most used proof of work system
Mhm.
in the market. Or in other words, be used more than digital gold, Bitcoin. So, and this is because Kaspa is so scalable and it enables use case. It enables fast transfers. And this is why I'm saying don't get so hung up on just money transferring. Kaspa is not limited to just value transferring. Kaspa is now introducing the ability to transfer communications
Yes.
at internet
Mhm.
speeds with the same type of security benefits that you get with your money: censorship resistance, decentralization, self sovereignty, all those things, but now with communications, not just with money. And then on top of that, it continues introducing so many more things. Caspa's so versatile, which just opens the door for so many different markets for Caspa to tap into, that it's not just limited to money being digital cash. If we think that's the only thing it's tapping into, we're seriously limiting what Caspa's potential actually can be for humanity. So we're talking, value transfers, communications, and proofs. Doing proofs for people. If you want to prove something that existed, you can literally stamp it into the network, and that will remain there forever, pretty much. And there's ways that you can retrieve that data and prove certain things. So the capabilities of Caspa are pretty much endless. We're already seeing them come to light today with things like Cassia messaging, which is a whole entire texting service on Caspa that's fully encrypted. And we also have a social media platform being built on Caspa that's, basically similar to X, but you get to benefit off of the Caspa network and its censorship resistance, and it's practically 100% uptime because we're not relying on centralized servers. So the potential for what Caspa can be used for is there's going to be things that we're not even thinking about. I
Yeah.
know the founder has said he believes the future is going to be AI agents basically
Mhm.
using the network to do certain tasks. And an AI doesn't have bias. It doesn't have a bias. It's going to just look for the most efficient way to do things in the most secure way. And when we're looking at scalability, Caspa allows similar type of internet speed, communications and transfers and all that kind of stuff. And AI, I think, would naturally go to Caspa to execute things, because not only are you able to do it in a very fast manner, you're able to do it with proof of work security, which
Mhm.
which by many of us we would agree that proof of work security is a lot more superior than proof of stake security.
Mhm.
So
Way better.
so that's pretty much why the importance of decentralization of money. It's a very deep question. There's there's a lot to kind of break down in that. But another thing I did want to add to that decentralized of money is when our money becomes decentralized and hard and sound, meaning that you can't print it forever and all that kind of stuff. I think it creates a different mindset for people, because
Mhm.
now people have a money that they now have. They know that it's not being debased, it's not being corrupted. And I think people then start actually doing more valuable things in society, because they know that if I do something valuable in society and I spend my time and effort, I receive payment for that. I then get to put that payment that I received for my time into something that's actually going to maintain its value. And not only just maintain it, it may also increase it over time.
Right.
So that means people are less incentivized to do corruption, because when you're able to inflate forever and basically there's no checks and balances, you can pretty much easily corrupt things, because you can just the money's inflated. If I need money to go
Mhm.
try to do this, I just print it. The government just
Right.
prints it. They print it and they do it. Whereas when you have something that's fixed and more people are living on this fixed kind of lifestyle, fixed value lifestyle, the incentives are different. the minds, you think differently. You're gonna value your time a lot more. You're gonna make sure you're spending your time a lot more doing more productive things rather than things that are not that productive or things that are possibly even just corrupt. So there's a lot that goes into having decentralized money and making sure that that decentralized money is able to be adopted by the masses, not just a few. And this is what makes Kaspa and Bitcoin different, is that Kaspa just enables the masses, more of the masses, to be able to adopt this type of money.
Mhm. Okay.
Literally, yes.
Mm.
So true. To add on that, I just think that sometimes I just imagine the type of businesses that can open to Caspa because, for example, we were talking about the messaging system that is now like a WhatsApp. I'm so thrilled to just have group chats so we can all transact messages in a decentralized way, but as a group. So it's going to bring more adoption. And last thing to add is I imagine that video games. Imagine just having NFT in the video game industry that everybody's using now, as using Casper network. I mean, it's like
Counter
the
Strike
possibilities are
Counter
endless.
Strike in Kaspa or StarCraft in Kaspa. Wow. So
Imagine that.
incredible,
Yes.
incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
And just
Imagine
to
having
add,
those NFTs in Casper.
and just to add, because I know some people listening to this may wonder and say, well, how in the world will the Caspa network be able to handle that? Because that would be a lot of transactions. There's not enough storage to take all that. Well,
Mhm.
I would just first say research about Caspa pruning, understand how Caspa pruning works. It's very important to learn how that works and why it's very beneficial. It allows Caspa to scale. And then another thing is people will say, well, if this was to happen, Caspa will get congested. The fees will start to rise, if too many people are using it. But I look at it as we want this to happen because that means Caspa is a success.
Yes.
And then it tells the community, hey, let's upgrade Caspa. We will find consensus to upgrade Caspa to be able to handle more people on that
Mm.
base layer. So Caspa, where it's at right now, is not limited. It can adapt as adoption comes in. And naturally, the cost for storage and hardware, naturally, the cost for those things do not go become cheaper over time, and adoption comes in much slower than the cost for those things to keep rising or being too expensive. So by the time the adoption comes in, the cost for being able to handle a future upgrade of Caspa is pretty much going to be the same cost.
Right.
And people could say, well, why can't Bitcoin do this? Well, with Bitcoin in its current state, if they increase the storage capacity, it
Mm. Yeah.
actually decreases its security
Right.
because the protocol of Bitcoin is limited. The protocol itself is limited. And so for the only way Bitcoin can actually scale would be to use it needs a new protocol altogether. So Caspa is different because when it scales, it's scaling and it's not limited by the protocol. It's
Right.
limited by the hardware. And the
Mm.
hardware is something external from Caspa itself. So Caspa itself is not limited. The only limitation is hardware. And like I was just saying, hardware naturally gets cheaper, and it gets cheaper much quicker, faster than adoption may come in. So
Right.
that's just something very unique to Caspa, and why Caspa can continue adapting over time if the adoption comes. So, if we get to that point where everyone's using Caspa and we see, it get congested, so to speak, and a fee market kicks in, that means Caspa is a success, guys. Like that's not a bad thing. It's showing us that people want this, and then that will justify for Caspa to continue upgrading over time.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
That's a good one.
Next question. Um, will smart contracts be sequenced in the base layer? Yeah, no?
Yeah. So I saw this question here, and I went ahead and went on AI a little
Yes.
bit to kind of
Mhm.
understand the question a little bit further, what it kind of means. Because the smart contract world is something new for me to actually research deeper. And it makes it even more difficult because the way Caspa is going to do smart contracts is different from traditionally how
Mm.
smart contracts are done. So there's a lot of unknowns for how things are going to work, and the developers of these smart contracts typically don't like to tell us much because it doesn't exist yet, and they don't like to tell us a lot of information before they have a product to actually prove what they're saying, because the things that they're saying are new and people are going to be like, what, you can do that now, like that's possible now. But
Yeah.
from my understanding with Caspa smart contracts, and what's going to make it very different from other
It's
implementations
very
of smart
important.
contracts
Yes.
is the fact that it's going to be able to communicate with the base layer at the same time. When you use the when if you were to use a layer 2 on Caspa,
Mhm.
that layer 2 is going to communicate with the base layer a lot more than a layer 2 on Ethereum. A layer 2 on Ethereum is more so, you move to the layer 2, and then it becomes parasitic um, to Ethereum. It makes the fees like rise very, very high, and it's not scalable because the block production on Ethereum is much slower. And then with Bitcoin, when you move to a layer 2, you absolutely don't support the base layer.
You abandon
You abandon it
completely the layer
completely.
one.
So with
Mhm.
Caspa though, there's something called based rollups, which will basically enable you to commit a transaction on the layer 2, and after you commit that transaction on the layer 2, it needs to verify it against the layer 1 and commit a transaction on the layer 1 to kind of verify what you did, which would mean that the layer 1 is getting support even though you're on a
And
layer 2
security of
and the fee market.
and
So
security of the layer one, the base layer is
yeah.
important. It's important. Layer two, but sequencer layer one is security Kaspa. Is the Kaspa security and base layer and layer two. Okay,
Mhm.
no?
Yeah, and then the great thing about Caspa is that because it is so scalable and the block production is very, very fast, there's something called MEV within
Mhm.
crypto, which in Ethereum, this was called miner extractable value. Today it's called maximum extractable value because Ethereum is no longer proof of work. But when it was proof of work, there's something called miner extractable value. And this is where miners could essentially front run your transactions. Because Ethereum was so slow, a block would take 15 seconds. So a miner would have 15 seconds to be able to predict, see what's in the block, see what's coming, and basically just manipulate the transaction
Okay,
and
okay.
cause people to
I
lose
understand. Yeah,
and
yeah.
their fees and in their transactions on a layer 2. So there's some, you can look online, there's people who have tried to do like a stable coin swap and they end up losing hundreds of thousands of dollars because some kind of minor extractable value
Mhm.
happened.
Mhm.
And the reason why it happened is because the system can't scale, it's slow. With Caspa, you have blocks
It's
coming
very
out every
fast.
10 seconds. It's super fast. So the protocol itself already has something to limit that risk. That is almost in every other project. Every other
Mhm.
project has that risk of MEV, and that makes Caspa more attractive to build on, because a project that's building on an app that's building on a project that doesn't have MEV resistance at the base layer already, they're basically risking the fact that a customer may leave forever if they experience that type of malicious behavior where they lose money. They may lose a customer forever on their app because I lost my money and it wasn't fair. Whereas with Kaspa, if you build on Kaspa, you automatically have a much higher resistance to
Mhm.
that type of malicious behavior.
Next question. What's next besides stablecoins? New block speed, native smart contracts at the base layer. What thinking about?
Yeah. So you're asking what's next besides the stable coins. And I do just want to say that the stable coin market is probably the biggest market for
Mm.
Kaspa. Because if we're just looking at reality, stable coins have a very huge network effect. They make up most of all the transactions on in crypto because it actually enables people to onboard themselves into crypto. And so I think Kaspa tapping into stablecoins will be the one of the most important targets to try to aim, because this will allow people to be able to actually stay on the Kaspa network and still live in the fiat world, but they're staying on the Kaspa network. And not only that, all the transactions they're doing on the stablecoin world would be supporting the Kaspa network. So, because I firmly do believe that in the long term, fiat is not going to just disappear. And so the
Mhm.
best steps forward for Kaspa to continue getting adoption is to have onboarding incentives. And these onboarding incentives would be stablecoins,
Mhm.
because it would attract people to be able to take loans against their Kaspa and get a stablecoin and be able to use value that they have in Kaspa, but never have to sell their Kaspa.
Right.
But while they're doing all that, it could still be contributing to the base layer through transactions and all that kind of stuff. So there's a huge world there when it comes to stablecoins. And then what's next for Kaspa? Well, we have Dagnite, which Dagnite is something that I personally have not gotten too deep into because I kind of want to wait until we're closer to it happening. Um, but Dagnite is considered the end game for Kaspa. It is the pretty much the last protocol update for Kaspa to seriously just bring it into the standards of the internet world. We're talking about allowing Kaspa to basically not be limited at all when you are transacting. The only limitation is your internet speed. So it would allow Kaspa to literally function as well as your internet functions. And that means you can increase the confirmation times of Kaspa. And this is really important because the confirmation time of Kaspa is basically the time it takes for your transaction to be secured on the network and no longer pretty much be able to be reversed. And right now, that time is on average at least at maximum 10 seconds. And if that wasn't fast enough for people, the goal is to make it faster than 10 seconds and basically just make seriously Kaspa be internet speed proof of work. And so that protocol is pretty much in the works. It will be coming in the future. The developers are already trying to get the framework going, and I've seen the developers kind of say that they want this to be finished by next year. They don't want it to go. They don't want it to take any longer than more than probably a year from now till we see it actually happen on Kaspa. So Dagnite is very important there. There's also a new innovation that Jonathan has just recently come up with for smart contracts, which would be base layer, pretty much smart contracts
Mhm.
fully on the base
Mhm.
layer. And it's just too new to even really talk about it. But this is the thing with Kaspa. It's setting new standards for proof of work. It's basically saying, hey, if you're gonna do proof of work, this is how you need to do it now. because
Right.
the old way just does not make sense. The old way does not allow you to even compete or allow you to even continue to adapt and allow more people to start using it. And so that is like the main thing for Caspa is it's just setting new standards for proof of work that were never seen before, used to be thought that it was impossible. But Caspa's saying it's not impossible. Every single day Caspa's here, it's just another day that it's proving that it's doing the impossible, and it's proving and it's creating history for the
He's
space.
taking.
And
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
so yeah, go ahead.
No, that is taking the same analogy of the normal phone, cell phone, Nokia that we used to use, and it's implemented like with Kaspa. We can imagine that we can get into the iPhone, because when we used to use the phone, we couldn't just grasp the idea that we can just do video calls or send pictures or anything. But with Kaspa, we can see that clearly that it is more near than far away from us. So definitely,
That is the true thing too. The kind of future that many people are thinking about think that it's so far in the future, but
right.
Caspa's already like bringing it today. Like today,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people can already have this type of technology that gives them self-sovereignty, gives them censorship resistance, gives them internet speed, basically communications and transfer of value today. We're not waiting for this anymore. It's here right now, and pretty much it's just the masses just don't understand it yet, and they haven't come to realize it yet. But at this point, to me, I really do believe like the adoption curve for Caspa is inevitable. I don't see why the rest of the world has not adopted crypto. I mean, we're talking about more than 97% of the world doesn't really understand crypto, but a majority of the world has a phone, and they understand technology. And how are we gonna attract that next group that doesn't even know really about any of this stuff? You need a proof of work that functions similar to all the other systems out there at internet speeds and convenience, and be very attractive to a user that is coming into this space. And so I like to say, if you're comparing Bitcoin and Caspa and you're giving the option to a person who never has been in crypto, which one would they choose? Naturally
it is.
I think a person would naturally flock to what is more convenient for them, and what is and what will actually fit their needs and their ask. So, and I think Caspa just really gives that to a lot of people.
Yeah.
One
Definitely.
question. With Dark Knight, increase block speed?
So with Dagnite, the block speeds can always be increased without Dagnite. The
Okay.
main thing about Dagnite is that it can increase the confirmation times. Because the block time, increasing the block speeds does not increase your confirmation time. Just increasing the block speed alone basically would just increase the throughput of Caspa. It would just increase how many transactions can actually fit every single second. And that's not the only way that you can increase the throughput of Caspa. You can increase the throughput of Caspa by just simply increasing the storage of each block. So there's different ways that you can increase how many transactions can go into the network. But Dagnite is more so specifically focused on increasing that confirmation time, how fast it is that your transaction gets submitted to the network, confirmed on the network as a valid transaction.
Okay.
Right.
Final thought. People tend to hoard quality money, which instead in emergencies is the last to be used. Since Kaspa is a proof of work, Could its future existence be at risk because of this natural human trend?
Yes. So
This may question me, my youth.
yeah, this is a really good question. So when it comes to money in general, for anything to really be considered money, you need to have store value properties. There needs to be an incentive to save in that money. Imagine if no one saved in dollars, everyone just spend it right away. The
Mhm.
dollar would collapse. The dollar relies on people saving in it and hoarding it, because usually what the system how the system works is they give out a return. If you save in dollars, the government will give a yield to you for saving in dollars. Um, so the dollar, even the dollar itself, it needs people who save in it, and a lot of us do save in the dollars or in fiat in general. We still save in it because you need to, pretty much, to kind of like function in society. So you need both. You need to save in it and you need to use it for it to actually be successful. And the distinction between Bitcoin and Kaspa is that Bitcoin, the incentives for use are very, very low, extremely low. Whereas for Kaspa, your incentives for using it are much higher, because the using aspect of Kaspa is not limited to using it as money. You don't only need to use it as money. So
Mhm.
you could save in Kaspa. If you want to save in Kaspa, that's cool. There's incentives for you to continue saving in Kaspa, but
Mhm.
still be using the network. And so whether or not people want to argue, oh, well, you're not using it as money when you're using it for something else, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Use is use. If a transaction's being put on the base layer, that is the network being used. And that's what matters at the end of the day for the network to actually survive. So with the example, like I was saying, how you can text on Kaspa, every text message you sent on Kaspa is a transaction on the network. And the cool thing about that is you don't really lose money when you're doing that. With Cassia messaging, you're allowed to, basically you could put 10 Kaspa in a wallet and you can send over 500,000 transactions just with
You
10
can
Kaspa,
spend years. You can spend
Mhm.
years just talking with 10
with just
Caspa.
10 Kaspa.
Yeah.
And now people will say, oh, that 10 Kaspa will turn into 100 or whatever. But if you just think of it in the logical terms of like how much money you spend for service on your phone
Right.
every month, you're probably spending 100 and something dollars to keep service on your phone. Caspa's asking for you 10 Kaspa. You could send 500,000 plus messages. And this isn't service on your phone. This is just the network itself. And at the current moment, 10 Kaspa is only, a couple dollars. In the future, it could turn into $10 itself, or, or continue going higher. But it does not even compare to the amount of money you spend for certain services that you use to communicate. So like if I think about X, on X, people pay monthly so that they can have a check mark and be able to spend to be able to speak and be seen. Whereas on Kaspa, you can have a social media platform. Again, the same concept. You put 10 Kaspa, you have 500,000 messages that you could be able to say to yourself. And when I look at my profile on X right now, I haven't even made 10,000 posts. So like
Imagine.
I haven't even made 10,000 posts, whereas Kaspa would let me do 500,000 with just 10 Kaspa, and all of those interactions are transactions on the network, and you're not losing value. I mean, the value is so insignificant, you pretty much are not noticing, and so you could still be using Kaspa while you're saving it, and this is the point, that Kaspa has much better incentives for a user to actually use Kaspa. And then and if you do want Kaspa to be successful, you should be motivated to try to find ways to use Kaspa. You don't always have to use your savings of Kaspa to actually use it. Hey, funnel your dollars through Kaspa before you use it. You know, I still make income in dollars, but when I go to my barber, for example, all I do is I sell my dollars and I funnel it through Kaspa and then I pay him. That way, I'm not using my savings of Kaspa and I'm not tapping into that or getting involved with taxes. I'm instantly converting my dollars into Kaspa to then pay my barber. And I just
Mhm.
look at it like me going to another country. When I go to another country, I trade my dollars for euros so that I can start spending in that country. And so when I go to my barber who wants to live on a harder sounder money, I go ahead and trade my dollars for Kaspa real quick so that I can pay him in Kaspa. And all of that is transactions on the network. And the reason why it's actually okay to do that is because it's scalable. If you try to do that in the Bitcoin world, you would be waiting so long, you have no incentive to live that kind of way. There is no
Or
reason
you'll
why
be
would you
using, or you'll be using a second layer that it
right.
defeats the purpose, because we
You wouldn't be
are just not
incentivized
sort of
to
salvage.
use something else, another layer that doesn't
Mhm.
actually use the base layer. Whereas in
Yeah.
Kaspa, because it's so fast, I can quickly convert my dollars, boom, right into Kaspa. And then this kind of goes back into stable coins. A person could theoretically live on fiat while being on Kaspa. And when they want to spend Kaspa, they can just convert their stable coin instantly into Kaspa very quickly and pay a person in Kaspa. And everything that happened there was transactions on the network.
Hmm.
So this is just what makes Kaspa so much more unique and why, yes, the incentive usually is to hoard it, but I believe Kaspa just has a lot more incentives to use as well. And the main reason is because it's scalable. Because, like I was saying in the beginning, when something's lack of scalability tends to lead to centralization. But when you have a
Right.
layer one, a base layer that is scaling and is actually able to handle the masses, there's more reason to actually use it.
And something to add to that, Silver, is that Caspa, it doesn't only bring self-sovereignty to money, it brings that to everything, even communication. What you were saying about the social media post and the messaging system, uh, something to keep in mind always is that nobody can stop you from communicating. So that's something very valuable in the
Very
nowadays,
important.
In the
because
digital world.
Yes.
yeah, for example, if WhatsApp or Facebook
Mhm.
or X, even X, goes bankrupt or anything happen, you are going to feel this pressure that you cannot communicate with a group or the person, but with using like Cassia, for example, it's inevitable. You just communicate with that person and nothing can stop you from that. You just need to use the network, use the
Yes.
tools, you know?
Mhm.
So that's something that is to keep in mind also always, that you're not only bringing that decentralized matter into money, but into your day-to-day usage, like communication and
Mhm.
everything. So
Yes.
it's good to keep that in mind. Another question or
Well
anything
done, Jeff.
else?
It's
Yeah.
it's incredible. Thanks for coming and share with us the knowledge and information. And see you next videos.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for your time, KaspaSilver. We appreciate you because you give a lot of insight information about the tech and about what is the updates, and also inspire us to keep doing. Well, I talk for me, but inspire me to keep doing this, because you bring a lot of value with your videos to the Kaspa community, and we want to do the same also.
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you for bringing that same kind of value to other languages. You know, the Spanish speaking
Hmm.
community. That's very important that Caspa does get decentralized amongst different languages, because Caspa is something global. It is not
Yeah.
just for one country. It,
Mhm.
it, it is a global technology, and so it's nice to see that there are other people out there doing this kind of content, speaking about Kaspa, because it just shows the reach that Kaspa has. And also, it is just really cool that this type of system can connect people that we would have never met. We probably would have never met before.
Yeah.
But Kaspa kind of just does these systems just basically allow you to meet other types of people and connect with people in ways that we would have never had the opportunity to do before.
Thank you
Yes.
very, very much.
Well, thank you guys, and well, we'll see you next time.
Follow
Let
the
us know,
miners
everyone.
and forget the prices. See you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Adiós, adiós.